What's up, y'all? This is Alchemy, and here we talk about all things alchemy. Okay, I love energy, right? And here we talk about it. We talk about energy as it relates to astrology, cosmology, etymology, a little biology, okay, and a few other ologies probably gonna come up here and there. But yeah, here we just kind of discuss energy. I mean, because all things really come back to, energy. Everything is energy, right? So, and I like to look at it in the terms of relationships, right? So, as it comes to like this experience, right? I feel like we're doing two things, and I feel like as humans, we are constantly asking ourselves how we relate to others, right? How we relate on an external level, right? And then we're also asking how we relate as well on an internal level to ourselves. In fact, we're asking that question first, okay? Because that's the first person you meet is yourself, child. You know what I mean? That's your first awareness is self. And then you become into like other awarenesses later on as it comes to like more external things. But yeah, it's just really important. It's just really important. That's all I'm trying to say. It's important to see both sides of how we relate externally and internally to things in this 3D world. So, without much further ado, I just want to do like a brief introduction just to kind of give you an idea of what my content's going to be about. And I wanted to like dive right on in to this concept of value. Because for real, it's been a whole lot of talk, especially on the tube, right? On the YouTubers, the tube world. We have heard a lot of people talk about like masculine and feminine and how men are valued versus how women are valued. These high value men, women conversations and shit like that. And it's interesting because I feel like as it comes to value, right? There's a sequence to things and there's an order to things. And I feel like this sequence happens for a reason, just like nature has this way of having things occur for a reason. And when I think about the value of 0 versus 1, right? And I want to come together and have some talks, just have some brief talks. I ain't gonna go too deep, well, maybe shit, I don't know, child. But we gonna talk about 0 and as it relates to 1 and why 0 sequentially should be before the 1. Why we need to put the 0 before the 1, right? Because right now what society is doing, we doing shit backwards. We're putting the 1 before the 0, and we'll talk about that too. So first of all, let's point out again, we live in a very dualistic world. Okay, again, we're looking at how we relate to ourselves versus others. And I think that also speaks to a very basic concept like of how we break everything down into feminine versus like masculine energy. Pretty much. All right, so let me talk about it. Zero being the whole thing, right? It looks like the whole big old circle. It's the feminine. It's represented to us in the feminine energy because it's just the whole. It's the whole thing from point all the way around back to that same point. All right, everything up in that's considered in that. And what does that speak to? It speaks to like that nurturing kind of quality that we always associate with the feminine, right? So there's a geometric thing going on here along with a psychological thing, right? So the 0 again kind of represents the whole thing, right? Because just think about it in a practical way. If I done drew a circle to represent something, that means I'm including everything inside of it, right? So I'm taking care of all of this, right? So that's why the feminine is kind of represented by the 0 as to where the 1, right, is represented by masculine, right? So when I think about the 1, I think about like a straight line going from point A, drawn down to point B. And they say a line can go on forever. So you can go in the direction either way for a long time. But it doesn't reflect back to like coming back to the same point, all right? Not nurturing the same things. It's more like an action, right? Like from point A to point B. We say shit like that all the time too. Things like that all the time too. I'm working on some things, y'all. But anywho, the content's cool. Because I really wanted to dive deep a little bit into understanding what the geometry here, okay? What the numbers are telling us here. So, 1 representing the masculine. Why is that being put in front of the 0? Just think about it. When we were in grade school, right, we learned how to count. We started with 1, 2, 3, right? We didn't really start with 0, okay? We didn't start 0, 1, 2, 3. In fact, in actual on the if you count like that, 1, 2, 3, up to 10, you don't see 0 until you get to that very end of that sequence, right? Because you see a 1 again, and then you got the 1 first with the 0 next. So again, the 0 after the 1. And I think on a subliminal level, on a in the mind, in the back of the mind type level, it's playing out in the world in a particular way. And I feel like, again, because the sequence should be 0 before 1, there's a bit of an error with that system of just kind of keeping the 0 hidden. Okay, and it's an interesting thing. We're going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to talk about little things, a few more things. But let's see. So, essentially, again, 0 should come before the 1. And here's another reason why. I'm gonna dive into this real quick. So let's do this together, friends. We're gonna do this together with our finger. Let's take our point, and then we're gonna draw a circle, but we're gonna make it more oval like, kind of like, like a I don't know what oval. Oval. Just like an oval, like a pearl, like pearl stone type oval. Bring that back around to complete our circle at the top. So now we've drawn our circle, okay? That physical representation, we went from point back to the same point on that journey, right? We could do the same thing over and over again and get back to that same point, right? So this speaks again to the nature of everything. All things being considered, right? All possibilities, right? And it's even funny, we say this saying like, from nothing came something, right? So think about this. In the 3D world, before you've ever acted on something, where did the initial idea come from, right? Where did the concept come from? Where did that action begin? Its actual inception is what we're saying, right? Because you wouldn't be just out here mowing the lawn if you didn't think about it. You probably was like, yeah, I want to take care of the yard today. You saw a whole vision before any action happened of your grass cut, of it lined up really nice, of doing all of that. And then you decided to go in and act on it, right? But the first thing that you saw in your mind's eye was the vision of it. So, all the possibilities of it, where action comes from. So that's the representation of the 0 to me. I feel like it's the inception, it's the birth, it's where all things can be considered, right? And why is that important to have in front of? Well, I mean, it just speaks to what's the practical nature of things, I guess is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, let's just be practical. Like I said, the example with cutting the grass, you could be doing anything. You could want to, you could be eating a candy bar right now, but you thought about it before you got that candy bar, okay? You eating a slice of pie right now. You thought about that pie before you went in that kitchen to go cut it. You see what I'm saying? I like pie. I really, really like pie. I need to quit talking about food references because I got this thing, y'all, with pie. This chocolate silk mousse pie is good as fuck. And I just recently celebrated my birthday recently, right? So I got a pie for my birthday. And that shit was good as fuck. And I'm like, man, who you celebrating today? What we got good today? Because I want to get some more pie. I need to quit it. I'm a foodie. Let me get back to this content though. All right. So coming back full circle again, this 0, it should come first because these are where our inceptions come from. These are where our thoughts come from. This is the land where anything can happen, where all things are possible to be created, to come into form, which is the number 1. It's coming into form. It's the first thing, the number 1. I am number 1. All that shit, all that like vibrato, that kind of vibration that it carries, like when you strike out, that's the number 1. And now, okay, coming back to where we did our little example, when we drew our invisible, or maybe you do it on paper. You can do it on paper if you want to. So if you drew your circle, your oval type circle, let's say you cover like maybe most of that circle to a point where all you can see is just that like little straight line kind of forming, because you got the other part hidden, right? You put a piece of paper or your palm over that. Now you got a straight line, all right? So when it also speaks to form, okay, yeah, you get the number 1. It's the first representation of form. It's the first representation of having actual valuable, tangible valuable, right? Because it's come out of the feminine and went into action mode. It's not a thought anymore. It's like an act. We finna do something about this, right? So number 1 is just a part of the number 0. It's just like it bends. I heard another YouTuber talk about that, a soul tuber. I like to call him a soul tuber because he out here getting souls, child, on this newer knowledge and stuff like that, where it's just really common everyday shit. We use zeros and ones every day. We use this. That's how this computer shit working out. Okay. That's all this shit, and we just going deeper a little bit to see how these zeros, how these forms, how these shapes really kind of permeate just regular existence. Like, this is the building blocks of what Source is doing, God is doing to make realities happen. But anyway, the soul tuber, Dolo, the pilot man, shout out, he basically speaks about, he talked about this. He talked about 0, 1 being an illusion. 1 being an illusion of 0. And I had to think about it. I was like, think about the fucking moon. Great example. There's a full round circle of a moon in the sky, but depending on where that sun hits, right, you might see a crescent form. You might see a half form, right? Moon's going to take all types of forms depending on how that light is hitting that shape, and because of where our Earth is positioned, at how it looks to us here, is that it's only a crescent of a shape. It's only a crescent of that light available from the moon, right? And then just think about that crescent, what that crescent looked like if you stretch out that form. I know it's kind of bent, but if you stretched it out and made it, unbent, it would kind of look more like a 1, right? So again, the full moon, or the full circle, the full whole thing is giving birth to the shapes that you see of it. It's giving shape to the 1. It's giving form to it. It's giving birth pretty much to it. Okay. So again, the 0 comes before the 1 because it's got everything. It's got it all. Okay. So, why then, right? If the 0 comes before 1, why as society are we putting the 1 before the 0? Well, here you go. Let's talk about it. Okay. Let's talk about it. So, and it's interesting too, like if you think about, I know some of us may know some things about the tarot or the tarot card, right? It's funny how the moon represents what's hidden and it looks like a 0. So again, things that are unknown, things that haven't come into fruition, there's a mystique about the 0, right? And there's a thing about why you need to consider all things before you go into hidden shits. Okay, because it's some shit that you don't know. Think about this: if you was going in a circle, if you were literally walking down, I don't know, if you were running a track, like one of those oval tracks, right? And somehow you had like, I don't know, it wasn't like maybe like a track and field track. Maybe it's like a maze of a track, right? It's actual track, but it's like a big tall grass. I'm trying to describe this as much as I can, y'all. Okay. But, let's say you're in like a maze of tall grass, but it goes in a fucking circle. Let's just say that it goes in a freaking circle. It goes in a freaking circle. You're limited by what you can see straight ahead of you, okay? Because the grass is blocking the other sides of things, right? It's not so 2D, it's 3D, it rolls up, right? So you can't see the things that are around that bend until you get there. You're gonna literally have to go around those things. So when it comes to like the hiddenness of situations, right? This I don't know what's on the other side of that. Why would you need to consider what's on the other side of things, right? I mean, because it's an unknown thing. There's a lot of reasons. I'm just being rhetorical with the situation, okay? But there's a lot of reasons to consider the other side of things. Why you need to put the whole thing first before you go into action, because you actually could be on a path that maybe you don't need to go on, okay? But if you consider the whole thing, we gonna go deep. We gonna go deeper. But y'all feel me, y'all my people, y'all feel me. So we gonna talk about it a little bit more. So what was I finna say? Hold on one second, y'all.